Criticism, the projection of darkness that does divorce a soul from their sanity. The critical force. This little story is about the nature of criticism, being a force of darkness that lurks in the depths below. It cruises around tirelessly, like a great white shark, eternally seeking victims to devour, as it turns their bellies sour with despicable feelings and critical thoughts that send them reeling to the point that they feel justified in putting others' noses out of joint. This invisible force glides silently and effortlessly through the minds of ignorant man, as it speaks its critical, condemnational, and judgmental words that stain the soul of the offender, who ignorantly speaks for it, oblivious to the fact that this dark force is using them to be its retributionary arm against a past offender in God's eyes, who was previously less than wise, and showed God that they were guilty of despising others on a past day. In its critical thrust, the dark force demeans the recipient, and at the same time invokes through them a retaliatory response. The dark force seeks to cause suffering to the user of it, as well as to the abused, and the key that it uses to maintain its justified use is its capacity to hold one's mind in an unforgiving mode towards others who are perceived as having defaulted in their past. During any critical confrontation, both parties are kept spellbound by a continuity of critical thoughts about the other. This mindset can only be broken by the power of the light that brings forth truth as well as an earnest desire of a person to change their sinful, unforgiving, and critical ways. So this critical mass of energy that flows ceaselessly and telepathically through the mind of man is a part of the satanic arm that metes out justifiable retribution through the mind of the ignorant, vain, and arrogant, who at that moment are blind to their critical dark deed. And at the same time, the dark energy flowing through stains their soul that becomes clagged with sooty darkness within, enlarging their inner sin, and slowly but inexorably drags their consciousness down into a pitiful state. I reiterate, as the river of dark energy flows through one's mouth or hand, it deposits silt within your soul that coarsens your energy vibration. This added burden within counteracts the cleansing essence of God's light that eternally outpours and purges us of sin that we, in ignorance, draw in. I reiterate again, there is a dark energy mass way below that via the mind of ignorant, vain man does justifiably sow its criticism of others' ways. This I do know, and what the sower of this critical force cannot see is that, as they criticize others, the more blind they be. For through their own soul does this dark energy flow as its criticism upon others they bestow, and their own inner energy, sin, by this energy is fed, and it is they who then end up one day sad and filled with dread. And the recipient of the criticism, too, becomes emotional, as they feel despised whilst being criticized. And, as they then go on their way, the action of the other in their minds do prey like a vulture on a carcass that continually strikes its blow, as does the cruising shark, until its victim does know that the other is to die, for they are not worthy to rise up into the sky. Yes, the despised becomes the despiser, and this retributionary abuse can eternally go on, unless my wisdom upon each I do bestow. So please become wise and try and see that any criticism very bad be, for it is in fact the serpent's hissing through you as it spews forth its venom upon those around who in their past were also critically untrue. So please now fortify your mind against the ingress of the critical thoughts that ultimately to you are unkind. Yes, for what the thoughts also make you do that to yourself is untrue is, they make you deny others, and you become unkind, or are unkind to others. This you feel justified to so do, as your persecutionary thoughts collate all past evidence needed to prove the other's guilt. Your denial of the other permits you to feel superior to them in some way, and thus you are yourself blinded as to your own vain, arrogant way, as you help them not each day. And your mind does ceaselessly plot new ways to show them up as a faulty individual, who in your mind are worthless in many a way. But as your mind does the other despise and criticize, it is you paving your own painful future, when you too, under God's one law, will be criticized and despised and denied on another unseen day, when for your folly you pay. This self-inflicted penance can come from the mouths and hands of others, or it can come directly into your own mind telepathically from the source of darkness below that does crucify you within through the self-expanded size of your own critical inner sin. It is this sin force that permits dark thoughts to flow in, as well as enlarging the self-critical depressing feelings that are the sin force within you. It is thus that so many are mentally overpowered by the satanic force and end up suiciding as they are destroyed from within. The force below can trap us critically in many ways. Example, we can be a joker who tells a good story about someone that ends up with a critical spike hidden in the joke. It does in fact criticize the other in a joking manner. This is dangerous to the projector. Remember that the speaker for the critical force is in fact the victim of the darkness. The force below wants to know what others do or don't do. It demands to know through you. And if the other does not say, then via you the force condemns them in some way, as it via you does say. If you don't tell me who you did see today, then you must be guilty in some way. And thus I criticize you and despise you. To be true, you must prove it by telling me what you did do. Do not seek to pry, or ahead it is you to cry. Just say to the other, "Did you enjoy your day?" This way you are positive, and the other has the freedom of choice to ought say. The force may say in your mind that the other is blind, for they are doing things less than nice, and thus you are mentally seduced and enticed into showing your disgust by driving away in a cloud of dust. If you are being criticized in any way, then remain silent, and do not even try to prove your innocence in any way. For at that moment of time, the one being controlled by the source less than divine will not hear you, but it will twist your response and use it as a new angle of attack, critical attack, upon your character. It is always best to stay peaceful and just walk away from the other's power play, for this then aids them. in that they will cease their dark expression when you are out of their sight, and thus lessen their own karmic load that they will receive further down their personal road. Remember, if you are foolish enough to retaliate, then you will be sucked up into the vortex of criticism and hate, and as you begin to retaliate and berate the critical offender, you will be incited and inspired by the dark to fight and destroy the abomination in your sight. Be advised, this critical voice is the dark side of God in action, that is telling you via others that you in your past were untrue in what you did to other children of God do, or it is criticizing others via you. So it is only the wise word of God that issues forth from the minds of the true who on earth do plod, that does awaken a response from the errant soul, who can then wisely zip up their mouths and change their projection to one of forgiveness and peace, as on earth they do stroll. Yes, the errants are told, "Shh," and must not ever for the darkness speak. For if they do, then to them will it, via others, its criticism upon them wreak. This is but the one eternal law of God in action that says, "As you do shall be done unto you, as in my worlds you plod." So forgiveness is the key, as by God given to thee. This you need see, if you believe, rightly or wrongly, that others in any way bad be. All must try hard to forget any sad or dark past happenings. For any reflection back, with its spellbinding continuity of negative thoughts, will lead to vengeful processes that now undress the sanity of mankind, who are all blind in God's eyes, and all are less than wise. This exposé of the sin force of criticism is but one example of the nature of one of the many negative emotions within the souls of evolving children of God. So, be it any other emotion, such as jealousy or hatred or anger too, any dark expression through you leads to the spiritual destruction of your own soul. Some people revel with the devil in self-pity as their others meet, bringing in stories of woe, and at the same time they throw stones from their glass houses onto others. It is sad to bring forth stories supposedly bad, as said, when at the same time they in self-pity revel, being inspired and incited by the devil. People with money who are critical of others have to pay for love, for no one wants to be around and be criticized in every way. These critical ones are never happy until my truth they can see, for then they no longer will need to buy others' company. Wise are those who gain companionship through loving ways. That means no criticism of others' ways, no condemnation of others' ways, no judgment of others' ways, no talk of past unpleasant happenings, no self-pitiful bewailing of our past or present suffering, be it physical or emotional. Any who justify a reason to stand back from others, or attack them verbally or physically, are being controlled by and used by the dark satanic force below. This I know. It is the dark, rude intruder below who is self-empowered to intrude into the psyche of past sinners. It is this force now identified by me, and it is up to you to now protect your own mind against his intrusive, rude thoughts that can abuse you and use you and ultimately destroy you from within. The danger is not what others do unto you, but what you do to them if you heed thoughts untrue. Remember, any person physically intruding into your place or space are but sent by God to set you free from your errant past. Thus they must be loved by forgiveness and given the message true, and not abused in any way by you for their ignorance of God's true way. We must instantly reject any negative thoughts and replace them with a positive desire to seek a way to uplift the other higher. It can be said truthfully that any person we communicate with each day is one that God has placed in our path, be they the beggar or the king or the magistrate who feels empowered to berate us. We needs reach out as we speak and touch the heart of the other with kindness of word. We must never wield a verbal sword, but we must not permit them to berate us without later giving them an understanding of what they are doing to their own soul. The more positivity we give away, the more is given us on another day. If we hold back through fear or other lack, then in fact we have succumbed to thoughts from below that via our sin emotions did justify us into denial mode. The lesson of the day is where we can identify the intruder far away and never listen to or heed what he has to say in our minds. No, we only heed the light and for it work day and night, so that we can release the multitudes bound by the dark deceiver below, whom telepathically does his darkness sow into the psyche of mankind in every level outside heaven. Remember, God has but one law: as you do shall be done unto you, and one commandment: be only loving and thus true. Thus all laws of man are but the plan of the Dark One to bring all undone. For all man's law justify control, incarceration, and fines that lead to a penniless destination. For what is done by our servants, the system's men, inspired from Satan's den, returns to me and you, for paying the wages of these ones untrue, who in their minds justifiably do what they do, in controlling and punishing me and you, and sending soldiers to kill their perceived enemy too. Yes, all law enforcers of man, from the parking attendant to the soldier, judge or jury or tax collectors, are all denying the light of love, and are workers for the critical mass below. This I know, for only this dark mass seeks to extort vengeance by fine or imprisonment and other punishment in its unforgiving ways from the land of the non-living below, via the mind of ignorant man on earth. So try and see that criticism in any form is very dangerous. Reference your personal spiritual destiny and suffering to be, for all are subject to God's karmic law. As you sow, so shall ye reap. The Source has not only infinite consciousness, but infinite energy too, that has both positive and negative spectrums. What you must see is that either side of these wavelengths can flow through you, and both give back to you what you chose to of it take or partake. And one side lovingly lifts you up, and the other does you arrogantly break. So you now needs choose which side to draw on and ultimately be, the love side or the hate side that will eternally abuse you. For as on it you sup, you as it become, the darkness below or the light of the inner sun. One side does you control and eternally bind you in repetitive suffering, and the other is eternal freedom, where only love does unwind, and you eternally in happiness sing. Become now wise, fortify your minds with my wisdom from the skies, then you will never others criticize for being as you, and ignorant unwise. And you will set them free, as I do for thee, and then, when we spiritually rise up into the heavens, you will rejoice for making the wise choice, and eternally join the dance above, where all are only loving as they are only loved. Terence.